not be able to unmute yourself during an application that you have not requested to attend unless you raise your hand. So you can see at the bottom of your screen, there is a raise a hand function. So when we get to that point and you do have a question, please use that function. If you're on the video portion of the Zoom meeting and you would like to speak, your microphone is muted. Please click the raise a hand button located at the bottom of your screen. Staff will notify us and that you wish to speak. If you are attending by telephone and you wish to speak, please dial *9 to raise your hand, which will signal staff that you wish to speak. At the beginning of each application, I will read the resolution and call the application forward with anyone who is registered for the application to be unmuted. Everyone wishing to speak to the application will be provided an opportunity to do so. All written comments and responses received concerning the applications will be addressed by the Secretary Treasurer. The members in attendance today are Jeff Lackey, Brian Maybe, Brock Carell, Gordon Olkey. Oh, sorry, Gordon hasn't joined us yet, so I'll strike him for now. Mark Jameson, Terry Fody, myself, Karina Smith Gadke. Our staff in attendance are the Director of Planning and Development, Marnie Venditti, Clerk Megan Shannon, and Secretary Treasurer Amanda Werner Mackler. Okay, so no interest has been declared at this point in time. And the first application up on order is A-2020-006. And the resolution is, sorry, I've got too many piles of paper. Far right, this one. Oh, this one. Oh, the folder. I apologize. There's I have literally 6 piles in front of me. I apologize. I need a mover and a seconder that the application A-2020-006 be approved as attached. Can I have a mover and a seconder? So Councillor Maybe, and then I have Deputy Mayor Lackey. Okay, so the motion is on the floor. Amanda, do you want to go forward with that?
Yes, I'll read the purpose of the application.
Thank you.
The application is requesting minor variances to construct a new marine facility that will replace the existing dock on the property. The proposed marine facility exceeds the maximum area, perimeter, width, and length provisions permitted for marine facilities.
Okay, so questions or comments in regards to this application? Go ahead, Ms. Venditti.
Thank you. Through you, just to provide an overview, this application was in front of the Committee of Adjustment when Council was acting as the Committee of Adjustment at the beginning of the pandemic. Because the public meeting was held with Council acting as the committee, we're required to bring it back to Council as the Committee of Adjustment for a final decision. At the time of the public meeting for this application, there were 2 neighbors with objections to the application. Some of those objections were around the fact that there weren't a detailed survey and accurate measurements and setbacks. And the other neighbor on the opposite side had concerns just with respect to the dock itself and how it might impact them. Well, this has been deferred. The neighbors have worked with the property owner, and the property owner has provided each landowner that had concerns have both provided comments that they have no further concerns. The conditions in the recommendation include the fact that the dock be moved, and we be provided with confirmation from the surveyor that the dock has been moved in accordance with the plan attached to the decision. And if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, so on my my agenda here, I'm going to ask the applicant if there is anything else they'd like to add to that, and then I'll go to Council for questions. So that would be Mr. Hunt. Is that correct? Mr. McCullough?
Yes.
Sorry.
Sorry, first it'll be Steve, and then Mr. McCullough is here as the representative for the neighbor.
Fair enough. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Hunt. Oh, somebody's muted him. So we need to unmute Mr. Hunt.
Yeah.
There we go.
Okay,
we can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, we need to move the dock, so I'm trying to move it so that it's not impacting the whole bay, basically. So that's all there is to say about that.
Okay. It seems that the neighbors have come to the table as per Ms. Venditti's comments, so everything seems to be moving in order. So, okay, I will take questions from the members, or sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to indicate that the neighbor had a question as well.
Oh, I'm going to take the questions from council first, or the Committee of Adjustment as it is now. And then I'll go to the members of the public. So I have Councillor Maybe and Councillor Grell. Did you have a question as well?
Not yet. I shall shortly.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And as the survey shows, it does show where the dock is being repositioned. And I know that part of the issue with this whole thing about having the dock extended was because of the low water. I was one of the councillors who did visit just at the beginning of this whole situation when it came up. So I did witness that the water is quite low there and why the dock needs to be extended. But certainly by the survey, looks like it's in a good spot for everybody to be cooperative and have movement of their boats because of the boathouse to the right and the other dock to the left or to the west. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Foti, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to our Director of Planning. The two neighbors that had questions before, are they on either side of this property?
Yes, through you. Yes, they are.
So they are the two closest adjoining neighbors. And
That's
now they
correct.
have no questions or problems.
Well, I note that Mr. McCullough, the neighbor to the west, is on the phone and or on the meeting and does have a question that will be asked following council
Okay.
discussions. Mr. McCullough's comment was that he didn't object to the relocation of the dock subject to other docks in the bay being given the same consideration.
Follow up if I may. I did read that letter. Does that still apply? Are we feeling like Mr. McCullough's letter indicated that we need to check into other docks in that same bay? Does that still apply when there's no more questions from neighboring, budding neighbors?
So through you, Mr. McCullough is the direct neighbor to the west. His existing dock, if I can just share my screen for a moment.
Sorry, I had the wrong name then. I apologize, Mr. McCullough.
I can't find my Zoom meeting. 1 second, just so I can share. Sorry, I can't get into the meeting for some reason. Oh, there we go. Just to share the survey on the screen. This is the dock that's proposed. The
Right.
original proposal included a reduction in variance for the side yard, which is what's shown here. This is the proposed configuration that's in front of the committee right now. This is Mr. McCullough's dock. So in terms of showing the same consideration for other properties, what we have done in this situation is we have gone back to the applicant. We required that all of the detailed dimensions be provided by an Ontario land surveyor. So we have accurate setbacks and know the accurate location of the dock. Mr. McCullough's dock is an existing non-complying structure because it does cross what is an encroachment here. And if we were to look at any other applications for any other dock, we would certainly require that we get detailed drawings dimensioned appropriately from a land surveyor to ensure that we accurately understand what's being proposed and the impacts on adjacent properties, which is what we've done in this circumstance.
So it's clear then that the two abutting neighbors are okay now.
That's my understanding based on the correspondence that we have received. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments from councillors? And then I'll go to the gallery. Councillor Grell?
Not yet. Thank you.
Okay, I will go to Mr. McCullough, as I believe he had his hand up.
Through you, Your Worship, can I
Oh.
just put the written comments that we received into the minutes? So I can read them out?
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Okay, we received comments from the Cataraqui Region Conservation Authority with no objections. And we received comments from Murray Kidd, neighbor, in an email dated February 23rd, 2022, advising that he had no objection to the revised dock location, provided that provided that it be subject to site plan approval, and that OLS will provide written confirmation verifying that once the dock has been relocated, it is consistent with the OLS sketch. And we received comments from Bill and Beth McCullough, neighbors, in an email dated February 9th, 2022, advising that they were reluctantly agree to the change if the municipality conducted a review of all the dock placements in the cove before a final decision was made. And that's all the comments that we received.
Thank you very much, Amanda. Okay, so I'll go to Mr. McCullough at this point. If you would like to add anything to your comments that have already been submitted, or provide us any additional information.
I think what I'd like to say is that the rationale for the placement of the Wentz dock, the status quo, is partly because when you look at the diagram of my dock, it's way over the line. But the cove itself, not everybody has a 180 flat surface in the front on the river. But ours is a 90-degree angle. We had to put our dock like that, and I think that when the Wentz was approved, it was approved. When the Wentz put their dock in, I think they compensated for my dock, and it made sense. It still makes sense to me to move it closer to me again. Is just it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. This imaginary line that you're concerned with in the water is an ambiguous thing to begin with.
So you're, just so that I'm clear and the rest of the committee members, so that for clarity purposes, you're talking about the lot line that extends out into the water?
Correct.
Okay. So your concern is that because of that quote unquote imaginary line, if you will, that it doesn't make sense the way that the dock is? I just want to be abundantly clear what you're saying.
Well, what I'm saying is that if the dock is moved over, it's going to squeeze me in a little bit. And that's already happened with the neighbor on the other side, which isn't part of this conversation, but it's why I want people to come down and just look at the configuration of the docks, look at the land before you make a final decision. I'll go along with whatever you want to do, but come down and look at it and see what you're really doing here and what has been done in the past.
Okay. I have a question from Councillor Maybe, and then I'll take further questions from anyone else on council. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. And again, Mr. McCullough, I actually was down there and did witness the docks and did see your dock also and how it's positioned in the water, knowing that again, the depth of the water in that particular area and how your point comes out. So I am in agreement with you of where it's actually placed at this point because of access to your dock, as well as the depth of the water. If it was moved more southwest, then it would be difficult to get some boats in there during low water time. And that's where this bay, being as shallow as it is, and why this dock extension is actually being asked for. So I do see your point. Thank you.
Further comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Grau.
The neighbor, or what would be the township's policy in terms of planning? What defines, in the case of boathouses and boat ramps, boat docks, what defines legal non-conforming? At what point does a boathouse placement become legal, even if it's non-conforming? Must there have been a building permit? Must there have been, in its original form, something on paper? Is that how it becomes legal non-conforming? Because if something is just put in place, is it the township's policy to just grandfather it and hence we call it legal non-conforming? Because there are many examples of that type of thing. And in this bay, although it is not the discussion this evening, in this bay there is such a structure. And I would be fearful if we just go ahead and call that stuff legal non-conforming. So what is the stance on that and what's the legality of it? Thank you.
Venditti.
Thank you. Through you, legal non-conforming means that something was installed legally prior to the current provisions of the zoning bylaw coming into effect.
So pretty clear, there would be paper trail on something that was put in place and then a current or a different policy is in place, but there would be something on paper that allowed it to be built. And I'm thinking of a boathouse as an example.
Possibly, not necessarily. And I'm saying that because at some point there were no zoning provisions with respect to boathouses and marine facilities. There were different provisions in the different bylaws prior to amalgamation here. And whether or not there's records of a permit or not, because a permit wouldn't necessarily have been required for a floating dock, only a permanent dock. So each case requires research based on the merits of the property that we're looking at to make that determination. In terms of a lot of it, what involves is looking at air photos, understanding what was there and when was there based on the history of air photos, and trying to find what we can in our records. So establishing a legal non-complying situation takes some research.
Just to follow up on a quick one. If something was found to be illegal, non-conforming, what would be the position of the township?
We would work with the property owner to try to achieve compliance.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Foti, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, listening to Mr. McCullough's comments about, leaving the dock where it is, so to speak. I'm on a similar wavelength to Councillor Grell. I have issues of not making it legal, like keeping within the imaginary boundary. If any one of these three properties all changed hands conceivably in the next 90 days, what's the next owner say? I think we're going down a rabbit hole here if we don't keep some legalities in place.
I'll ask for Ms. Venditti to make comment on this, mainly because I think that based on, or at least how I understood the drawings as they were presented, is that this actually meets the setbacks and actually puts us, and the word imaginary line is actually not fair because it isn't an imaginary line. It's where the lot line projects out. And I realized what Mr. McCullough, or at least how I understand it, is that while those lot lines aren't concrete barriers by any stretch, that in these particular instances, when you're in a bay, it doesn't always make sense because those lot lines, because of the way that the pie shape comes out type thing. So I'll let you make a comment.
Well, just as, if I may, the imaginary lines in today's world are not so imaginary. They're called a laser light.
Yep.
And they're very defined as to where they are. And there is your lot line.
So when these lots were created originally and the way that these properties came to be, that's where it changed how we know surveying and stuff to be done today. So go ahead.
I have no problem if the neighbors are all getting along. My problem is down the road, the legality says there is the lot line.
And that is,
And I can understand the feelings of a tight bay and everybody's trying to get enough dockage out far enough to reach the depth of water that's required and everybody fit in, so to speak, which is great. I'll leave it at that for now.
okay. I don't see any further hands up from the gallery at this point. I think Ms. Venditti has made her comments. Is there anyone in attendance, anyone else from the audience that wishes to speak to this application? If yes, please add your comments either in the chat or provide comments. Amanda, can you take them via email at this point? Or go ahead,
Sorry,
Ms.
through
Venditti.
you, the comments should be received before the committee
End of
makes
the
their
meeting.
decision,
Okay.
which is in
Which
front
is
of the
now.
committee right now.
Okay. So any additional comments need to be made now. So I have Mr. McCullough who's put his hand up. So I'll recognize him and then there's no further hands up and then we'll move forward.
Thank you. My comment is, I would like to get an answer to whether people can come down and just take a look at this situation in light of all the discussion that we've had. and see if what we're doing makes sense, or maybe we adjust it in another way.
I think that the decision has come forward to council or to the Committee of Adjustment this evening to be made a decision. So that doesn't allow us to attend the actual property. Having said that, I know I went down there on this particular instance as well when it first came to council. Brian maybe said that he had done the same. So my memory is short, but it just still does serve me sometimes. And I do recall where these docks were currently located and proposed to be located. So unless the only way that would happen is that the committee would have to defer this again, correct, Ms. Venditti?
That's correct. I would note that I have put an image on the screen that shows the docks. This would be Mr. McCullough's dock.
Okay.
And this is the dock in question.
Okay. So.
Can I just say one more thing?
Sure.
I feel like my dock, my property line is getting squeezed out here. And I go back when we bought this place 15 years ago, and the owner, who's since sold, was making adjustments to his boat port and his docks. And I called the municipality at the time. I don't know who I spoke to. I know it was a lady. And I told her that we were going to be acquiring this property in the next few months. And the response was, well, then if you're not an owner down there, you have no say. And that was it. And now this is happening. The other guy moved his boat port out 30 feet, put a 30-foot ramp on it, and then added another 30 feet of dock. And that makes it very difficult for me to get in there sometimes, especially in low water and especially with certain breezes. And now this dock is moving over again closer to my dock. So this is why I would just like to have just a quick review, not a big analysis, quick review of the dock situation, the boat port situation down here.
How about after this? Just get someone come on.
Just make the decision pending.
We don't have the ability to do that. We have to make a decision one way or the other, or defer it. Those are the only two options that we have under the function of the committee.
I'll ask is that people come out and take a look at the current situation.
Okay, understood. So is there further discussion by the committee in regards to this application? So go ahead, Councilor Brown.
Sorry, just was the dock made narrower? I can't remember whether it was made narrower. I'm thinking of another situation. So although the dock is being angled differently, was the dock made smaller in any way, or was it the same size retained? Thank you.
Ms. Venditti.
It was just reoriented. If you look at the drawing, this is what was the original proposal.
Mhm.
And this is what is currently in front of the committee.
It's kind of faint. If you can you see it there? No.
I was just wondering how wide that dock is.
It looks like it's slightly, it does look slightly narrower. Is that correct?
No, same dock.
Oh, it's the same dock, just being reoriented.
Yep.
Okay, so it's the width remains the same. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so with that, Ms. Venditti, you have anything to add?
Just that if the committee wishes to defer it for further review, that's an option as well. The committee can approve, deny, or defer an application.
Okay. So as of right now, there is a motion before the committee, and the motion is moved by Councillor Maybe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Lackey, that the application A-2020-006 be approved as attached. So any further discussion on this, or are you looking for a deferral? If that's the case, someone needs to defer it. Go ahead, Mr. Corral.
May I ask one more question
Yeah,
before?
of course. Yeah.
If we were to defer, this has already been on the books since 2020, I believe. If we were to defer this, does that impinge on the people who own the dock? It's now springtime. When could it come back to Committee of Adjustment? And would it be the council again, or could it be referred to the Committee of Adjustment that sits currently?
So through you, it cannot be referred to the Committee of Adjustment that currently sits. It would
Okay.
have to come back to council as the Committee of Adjustment. Well, I understand the comments that Mr. McCullough is making. A minor variance is a property-specific application, and the dock as proposed complies with the side yard setback
Yep.
on the western side. So staff's recommendation won't be changing. What's in front of the committee is staff's recommendation. So it would be up to council to satisfy themselves with whatever the reasons for deferral are.
Okay, so the motion remains on the table as it stands. I see no hands up to change it or add a deferral here. So I will call the question. All those in favor of the application as presented, please raise your hand. Anybody opposed? And it is carried. Okay, and the next motion is that the Committee of Adjustment will adjourn to meet again at the call of the Secretary Treasurer. I need a mover and a seconder, please. Bodie and maybe. So all those in favor to adjourn, please indicate. All those opposed? And we're carried. So we are adjourned for the Committee of Adjustment meeting. Now. Public meeting, there's the public meeting. So this will delay council. Unfortunately, well, are we okay from the clerk's point of view to delay? Okay. Moving forward, we're still on the same link, so nobody has to change. So I'll call the meeting, the public meeting to order at 6:28. Any declaration of interest or general nature thereof, if you have an interest, please declare it. Seeing none, we'll move forward with the purpose of the meeting. 3.1 D 14-2022-003 vacant land, County Road 32, leads concession 1, part lot 12, Highway 32 ES. Ms. Venditti.
Thank you. Through you, this is an application for zoning bylaw amendment for the property that is located at the end of Lex Road. I'm just going to share my screen. The purpose of this application is to rezone the severed and retained parcels from an application for consent. In front of you, you can see a plan of the properties. The purpose of the application is to rezone the lands to limit development to within the areas shown within the blue squares. This is based on the recommendations of an environmental impact statement that was completed to support the applications for consent. The purpose of that is because the majority of the area is identified as significant woodland, so the zoning amendment will limit the area of disturbance on the property to mitigate any potential impacts to the woodland area. This application was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act, and there were no public comments received.
Okay, before I take any comments from council, I'm going to read the preamble that I always read. So personal information collected at the public hearing is collected under the authority of the Planning Act and will be used to assist in making a decision on this matter. All names, addresses, and opinions and comments are collected and form part of the minutes which are available to the public. Questions regarding this collection should be forwarded to the Director of Planning. The purpose of the public meetings is to present planning applications in a public forum as required by the Planning Act. Following presentations by application or staff, council members will have an opportunity to ask questions for clarification or further information. The meeting will then be open to the public for comments and questions. When you speak, please provide your name and address for recording in the minutes. All comments should be directed to myself, the chair of the meeting. The applicant will be provided the opportunity to address public questions once all members of the public have made their submissions. For the applications being presented tonight, a report and recommendation are being presented to council. Following council, decision notice will be circulated in accordance with the Planning Act. If a person or public body would have an ability to appeal the decision of the council to the Ontario Land Tribunal, but the person or public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the township before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision. So discussion on this particular request? Go ahead, Mr. Fode.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. I understand the bylaw amendment proposal. How does this play out to the homeowners in these cases if they should apply to build a gazebo or a garage or a workshop? How does that play out down the road?
Through you, Your Worship, the proposed building envelopes are a suitable size to accommodate a house or any accessory uses that would be around there. But all building would be limited to the areas within the blue squares that are shown on the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Yeah, the building lot is basically 300 by 300. Does that include the septic bed? Is it in that envelope also compliance? And also this one road, I've been down this road and know that the one power supply is on the retained land. So the road would have to be extended to get to that particular point. And obviously who's brought it forward can do that. There's quite a bit of development happening down on that road as I have traveled it and seen a few things that are happening. So thank you.
Further comments or questions in regards to this application? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, have we assumed responsibility of the extension of that road?
Madam Platt,
Through you, yes, council assumes it. I think it was in September or October.
last year. Any comments or questions further to this particular report? Seeing none, we'll move forward to D14 2022-004 549 Station Road. Ms. Venditti? Nope, it's not on here. Nope. Not on that one. I must have an old version. I apologize.
Yeah, this is the only public meeting this evening.
Oh, heavens. Why do I have the May 2nd? It's okay. It's okay. I'm one meeting ahead of myself. All good. So that's it for this particular public meeting. All good. No further comments or questions. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Counselor Maybe. And for seconder, Counselor Fode. That the public meeting adjourn. All those in favor, please signify.